far too many people are focused on fixes. And I think people need to become experts in compound interest. This is like maybe your impact. This is time. It looks like this. So it looks like it's not doing much for a while. Most people don't have the patience and consistency to get to the inflection point. And what they're doing is they're going online and they're going to ChatGPT or they're typing in, how do I do this? And there's an element of quicker, okay? And sometimes the quickest way to make a major impact is just to stick with something consistently over and over. And that is not fun to hear. But I will challenge people, if they look at their life or they look at anybody who has achieved a lot, there's an element of consistency over time. Every now and again, you will meet a prodigy at something, but I would argue that's the exception that proves the rule. The fact that they're a prodigy and they're an outlier proves the rule that that's not how it normally happens. If you want to get fit and you want to get in shape, I get it. You want to be in shape in 30 days by the time you're going to the beach. But you know what? I bet you if you meet your fittest friends, it took them years to get that fit, right? And same thing, if you want to learn the piano, if you want to learn, a musical instrument, if you want to get good at something, podcasting, you're now on 250 episodes. I bet you're better at 250 than you were on the first episode.
100%.
Right? So I would say this, if you want to be an expert at something, be an expert in consistency and study the law of compounding and compound interest. Because if you can master that, and most cannot, but if you can, and you can direct that compound interest in that lower right quadrant, ideally, in an area where you're good at, but also one that fills your bucket, you will achieve far more than you would have ever imagined. But you can't give up. You just got to keep going.
That's right. So good. Hey, Spartans. Want to make a special intro for this week's episode. I have a longtime friend, Joe Hamilton, in the studio, CEO at Vortex Optics. And this has been a conversation that had been a long time coming. And I want to give a special intro because this is one of the best CEOs on the planet. Part of what makes him one of the best CEOs on the planet is he will never admit that or even acknowledge that. And that's what makes some of the greatest because they always see how much room they have to improve and grow. We're going to go behind the scenes at one of America's iconic brands. We're going to learn his leadership style, how he takes care of his people, how they take care of their customers, and how they win government contracts in such a competitive field. So buckle up, enjoy this episode, make sure you share it far and wide.
This is Sparta!
Welcome back to Spartan Leadership. I'm your host, Josh Kosnick, and this is your podcast for inspiration, leadership, impact. And today's conversation I've been so looking forward to. I got a good friend in the studio, which I will give an intro to, but this is not a CEO tells the brand story episode. This is, how a son stewards the father's company in a way that puts staff and customers dead center and somehow ends up with a beloved brand, a ridiculous VIP warranty, and life or death contracts in the U.S. military. So, Joe Hamilton, my friend, welcome to the show.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Well, so I want to get into this today because there's going to be so much knowledge dropped, and I want everyone to buckle up. But I want to start back with a little bit of a story because, I don't know, was it 4 years ago, Alec, that we were at Vortex? 3 years ago? So 3 years ago, we're sitting at Vortex in Joe's office, amazing office, lots of books.
Yep.
And we get to have this very personal conversation. At that time, I was writing some leadership articles for a magazine.
Right.
And that magazine's sitting down to interview Joe, and I'm in the behind the scenes. I wasn't the interviewer that day.
Yep.
I'm sitting behind the scenes recording notes and how am I going to frame this article about this company that I've admired for so long and been a customer of for so long. And I really wanted to tell the story from an entrepreneurial angle. And you spoke so well about your father and yourself, and I was trying to paint that picture to show like, hey, it goes from Wild Birds Unlimited to this crazy idea about binoculars and then all that way through. And I write what I think is an amazing article.
I'm not laughing because it wasn't good.
I know. And it goes, and I'm like, oh man, this is my best work yet.
Yeah.
And I'm not like this skilled writer. I wasn't an author at that point or anything of that nature. And I get the email that says, hey, Joe doesn't want the article written.
Yeah. Yeah.
Joe put it down as to his dad would be I don't know if the word was embarrassed or what it was, but bottom line is it's too flattering of the Hamilton family, and you guys wanted it to be about Vortex and the customers and the employees was my take on it. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, somewhat. I think it was a combination of things. So I think it was a couple things. Like, one, I don't think I was ready yet for that story to be told. I think, two, I felt really responsible that I should tell it just because it was so personal.
Yeah.
And then I think, three, the first part I'm talking about is just more, if something is about us, we were always focused on making it about the customer. Yeah. So I think over the past couple of years, I've gotten to a point where I'm much more comfortable with that dynamic. And then the third piece was, I guess, somewhat adjacent to the first thing I just said, was just, we were just really weren't ready to have us be the highlight. Yeah. We always want the customer to be the highlight. In fact, our first core value is about you, which is a play on words. So you go to most websites, it says about us. So my dad would always have a joke and he'd say, well, it shouldn't be about the company. It should be about the customer. If I'm a customer, I'm going there. I want to know what's in it for me, kind of a thing. And so that's our first core value. And it's just a different way to say the golden rule, it's just focus on the other person, treat them how you'd want to be treated. So it's just been a journey to get to the point where some people actually do want to know about you. Some people can learn a lot from your story. And I wasn't ready yet to quite turn the corner and start telling it.
Yeah. And you're so right, because that's where I was thinking is most CEOs read that article and they're like, yeah, post that shit everywhere.
Yeah. Make me look as great as possible.
Exactly. Yeah. Which it was really flattering about you guys. Cause I was thinking about just, cause I didn't know the part of the Wild Birds Unlimited.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And knowing that that's where Dad started it and saw the opportunities. And this is what entrepreneurs do all the time. Like I have one of my trainers at Carbon, younger guy. Yep. He goes, Josh, if you were going to start a business today, what would it be? And I was like, so are you asking for you? He's like, yeah. I said, well, that'd be really hard for me to answer that question, because he goes, well, are you thinking real estate, finance, manufacturing, like whatever? And I said, well, let me put it to you this way, is like every entrepreneur has seen a problem and set out to solve that problem. I was like, at one point, I pointed down at his shoes and I said, at one point we wore these things on our feet without laces. And someone goes, you know what? There's got to be a better way to keep these things on our feet. Mm-hmm. And then someone's like, oh, I bet there's a way to make these more comfortable. Yep. And so on and so forth. And things continue to progress. In your dad's case, there was camera shops that were selling binoculars that knew nothing about them. Yep. And they kept coming in to ask questions about binoculars to the bird guy. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it was the customers.
The customers,
so the customers were coming in. They were getting seed from him. They were getting feeders from them. So the natural next step is, hey, I need some binoculars to watch the birds in the backyard, or if we go hiking to watch them. And so he was sending them to the camera stores. But you're right. They didn't know anything about them because cameras were the things that kept the lights on. So the experience wasn't great. But he did see the opportunity in the sense where he thought, hey, I keep sending people here that want to buy something from me. Maybe I should look into getting those things. And that just kickstarted, which we can get into if you want, but many different, recognizing opportunities, leaning into those, running experiments is what we like to call them. And then some of them don't work out. Obviously, the optics one did.
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that's the entrepreneurial journey, is not every idea is a great idea.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. You want to be strategic, but sometimes you just got to shoot and then aim later, Yeah.
That's a good principle. And for tier one operators, preach that one all the time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you got to ship
Fire than aim.
Yeah, you do. You do. Absolutely.
So talk a little bit about that. What came to mind as you were describing, you weren't ready yet. And you've taken a massive turn over the last 12 months on actually being ready, being more visible online.
Yes.
Which you had never previously done.
At all.
Well, what was the decision point to get your face out there and actually put yourself out there on social media?
Yeah, it was a combination of things that had happened over a couple years. But so I get asked a lot about how Vortex has grown, what's the Vortex story. So I get asked to sometimes speak at places, or get asked to be on podcasts, or they have groups that come in, businesses or individual leaders that'll come in, want to pick my brain and things like that. And so I was getting a lot of that request. So there was kind of one component there. But the other component was we have a vision, which is to be the catalyst that improves the world through service. So our vision is a vision for a brighter, bigger, better future. And that is focused around serving people. So some people think of service as subservient. We think of service as a superpower. And then our mission is how we do that. How do we accomplish that? And we call it CARE, which stands for Create a Rare Experience. So it's all about delivering this, incredible, wow, highly personalized experience to everybody that we interact with. And we can get into more of that later. But I really started to feel convicted if it's like, okay, if our vision is this better world about service, and CARE is how we do that, we have to turn CARE from a mission into a movement. It can't just be about Vortex crushing it from the service side and doing well. We need to inspire other leaders and other businesses to lean into service as a superpower. And so I thought, well, what's a way to do that? And I thought, well, it's to get that message out there. You're already being asked to do it. And then it was sort of, okay, well, how can you do your regular job, being the CEO, but also get that message out? And so that's where it leaned into our own podcast, Create a Rare Experience, LinkedIn and Instagram and YouTube, putting content out. So a lot of them are stories that we'll share, but the whole thing in general is built around principles. So we'll share some tactics, and I'm sure we'll get into some tactics here, but really tactics they are secondary to principles. And so it's all principally based stuff. And I believe when you can lean into principles, you can connect the dots to anything, real estate, optics, what have you. Those things apply anywhere and everywhere, and they're timeless.
Yeah.
So tactics are very much what's now, and that's important. But principles are timeless, and I want to be an expert at timeless things.
Yeah, that's so good. Well, I think one of the things that you've done really well with your social media is being purposeful about the vision, the purpose behind it.
Yeah.
I just wrote a social media post yesterday about the 250th episode of this podcast coming out, right? Thank you. But what was meaningful behind it is I started that when I was at Northwestern. And my marketing guy, my CMO at the time, goes, "Hey, I think you should start a podcast. It'd be a great marketing piece for us and, position you as an expert in the community and the leadership front." And I'm like, that's all good stuff. And probably had some similar thoughts to you at that point. I was like, when am I going to fit this in my calendar? How are we going to get guests? The stuff that he's like, let me worry about the guests. I was like, actually, my biggest objection is that's marketing isn't just enough for me. And it had to be something bigger. And what it came back to for me was I'm in the financial planning world, life insurance being a part of that. I've delivered death claims from ages 2 years old to 90 years old. I know that I'm mortal as well.
Yeah.
And it came to me that it was like, oh, my kids would always have my voice.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
And so it's more of a legacy thing. And so, my curious nature and being able to ask leaders and like yourself, like questions and understand and have some opinions and hear those opinions change over the time frame. And not just my kids, but future generations.
Right.
We're in this digital age now, whereas, the book that I wrote, this podcast, there's stuff that we're doing today that can live on multiple generations to know who their ancestors were.
When you don't even, you don't know everybody you're going to impact, right? Like I always think, the Bible says nothing's new under the sun. So that was one of the things that was holding me back from podcasts. Like, I'm not going to say anything that's technically new. It'll be new in the sense that it might be our story or our way or what have you. But, principles they're already written down. But what I've experienced is whether I'm reading a book or talking to a friend or what have you, is timing and the person's individual story, and all of that can hit you at the right time in the right way and can be a catalyst for a lot of more.
Yeah.
So I actually think, that helped me, and actually I had some friends that would help me with that, work through that, of being like, why do they need to hear my voice? Like there's tons of podcasts out there. There's tons of content. There's no shortage of content out there. And it was sort of like, well, hold on a minute. Like you've impacted all these people. You're having people come in, you're impacting them. So you have this opportunity to hit people at the right time, at the right way that maybe somebody else won't. And then that legacy, I think, lives on too. So I think it's a good thing that people are sharing their stories. And I think there's no shortage there shouldn't be a shortage of that because it's always going to have an impact. You may not always know or see what it's going to be, though.
Yeah, but you're so right, because sometimes it's the messenger and the delivery, the timing. But also there's people out there that have respected you for a long time that you may not even have known, but have just known Vortex, followed the brand, known the Hamilton family, and have just a sliver of respect for you more than, say, Ed Milet or Lewis Howes or whatever. They respect those voices, but they don't have a personal connection, like someone that's grown up in Middleton, Wisconsin, and has been a part of this great brand and family.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, the messenger matters for sure.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about the care experience, because I want to describe my first. This is before you rolled it out big, and I don't know the timing of it, where you were at in the journey, but I'm sure you remember the instance. So our charitable group, 100 Men of Dane County, comes out to Vortex, and we did the tour, which I've been blessed to do many times. And we're sitting in the conference room, and you came and gave a talk, and you're like, "Hey, fill out these cards." Yeah. And we're like, "Okay." And we're fill out these cards, but you're like, "I want you to fill them out to your children." And so write a note to your children. What we're going to do here at Vortex is we created these youth binoculars. And we're going to mail these as a gift from you, Dad. And so this is like the first time I had heard of your care program, and I don't know how new you were into it, because I'd always known of your values and your VIP warranty. But that was the first time I had experienced them. And then that gets shipped literally to our house 2 days later, and Cam gets to open that up and sees the note from Dad and sees the binoculars, and he was up here above us hunting with me this fall with his binoculars. And that was just an amazing gift, and it shows how generous you are. But that was the part of the program to create that rare experience.
Yeah. So I think there's probably a lot of components of care and create a rare experience. And so I think a lot of it starts with, you kind of need to have a baseline experience that I think is rare and unique and memorable. And so, for instance, and repeatable and consistent. So for instance, when somebody makes a phone call, are they getting a human being? Are they getting a phone tree? Right? And how quickly can they get to a human being? When they send an email, when they chat, how quickly are they getting somebody? Because your response time is a litmus test for how much you actually care from a customer's perspective. That's just the way that it is. And so, and then also, what type of person are you getting? Are you getting somebody that just doesn't care, the lowest common denominator to get on your phones, somebody that just breathing air, are you actually getting somebody who, in our case, who's forgot more than I'll ever know on hunting and shooting, and loves people and loves talking to people, so that they love people and they're empowered to help, and they're not pigeonholed by some policy SOP rule book that doesn't allow them to do anything. They say, sorry, that's not our policy. So when somebody returns something, is it repaired or replaced for free? No questions asked. Is there a lot of red tape? What's the turnaround time? Is it in our case, under 5 days? So those things are a lot of consistent, repeatable things. And I think that's really important. And we could go all across the organization, and there's that. But I think what you saw was looking for moments of elevation. Okay. Yeah. And ways to personalize it. So I think Andy Stanley said one time, do for one what you wish you could do for everyone. And I think right now in our culture, scaling is good. Talking about scaling is good, but it's not the ultimate thing. Okay. There's too much, too quick on jumping to efficiency, jumping to scale. And so what that does is it snuffs out a lot of opportunities to elevate one-on-one with a single person. And so what that happened there with that program is, about a month or two earlier, I got to go out to San Diego to give a talk, and we were going to give a talk about something that we had done the past year that accelerated growth. Okay. So Seamus, and you might know Sheena, but they had the idea a year and a half ago, because they're saying, hey, we're meeting people from sales and this and that, and we get to know them, we get to know their kids. We think it'd be really cool if we developed this kids binocular, and it's primarily a giveaway as a gift to people's kids. I mean, after all, what do we care about more than anything else as parents? It's kids, right? So we developed this Bantam binocular, and as we're in the development, this binocular is coming along really good, and we're like, I think this is more than just a giveaway. I think we can sell this binocular. So we did. We have both. We have the binocular that we're selling, and then of course we're giving a lot of them away as these gifts when we meet somebody, and authentically we get to know them. Not like meet them like, oh hey, you're Josh. Here, do you have a kid? Here, right? Like we got to get to know them. It's authentic. So anyways, so we end up selling about in the first year it was like 50,000 units, 65,000 units. It was a lot of units, right? The idea came from just trying to serve these people that they were meeting who have kids. We end up selling a pile. So I give this talk, but in this talk, I'm like, the people I'm going to be talking to have got kids. And so like, we got to hit them in their emotions. We got to make this a memorable experience because I'm thinking care. I'm the care guy. Care is our mission. We got to deliver this, unique experience. So I came up with this idea where you could fill out and you could write a note, give it back to us, and we'll ship that binocular show up to your house, just like you experienced with your son. And so it was a one-off. Well, it went over so well. I mean, some of the stories and people are crying in San Diego, they're writing these notes. Cause I told you guys, like, don't do the like, dad, like, I love you, dad. Yeah. Right. Like, no, yeah. Right. Like write something about what's it like to be with him up there, on the weekend hunting together, like, write something heartfelt. And so it became a thing that we don't do all the time, but we were like, okay, now that's a thing that works really well. Let's try to repeat it a little bit. But I think one of the things, if you're somebody who wants to create these memorable experiences, and you don't have to call it care, but if you got that kind of spirit, and I think everybody does, I think everybody wants to do something rare, not just once, but lots of times. You really have to look for opportunities sometimes to do things that are one-off and not go to scaling right away. Because if you go to scale right away, which I get it, that makes logical sense, you will snuff out a lot of good ideas that you then can scale later. Or the other thing is the story scales. Yeah. So a good example of that is, I think it was Stanley. I don't know if you saw Stanley, the thermos. Yep. Did you see, so a woman's car burned up. I don't know how. But in the car is this Stanley in the, and it survived. And it survived and it's still got the ice and it's still cold, right? So they get this story. The CEO gets on a video and says, hey, so-and-so, we're really happy you survived. We're sorry about your car. We're about to do something we've never done before, and we're probably never going to do again. And they give this woman a new car and a bunch of Stanley swag. Well, is that something you can scale? Absolutely not, no. Right? Like you can't give every Stanley customer a car. So initially, the people well-intentioned that are more operationally focused, they're going to say, you can't do that because if you do that for her, you have to do it for everyone. But he prefaced it from the jump. We've never done it before. We'll probably never do it again. Well, that one video is probably their best piece of marketing that they've ever done as a company. So that's story scaled. And so I think it's wonderful to talk about operationally based stuff, scale-based stuff, system-based stuff. But I think one of the things that you have to be careful about is you need to leave room for people to notice opportunities, moments of elevation, lean into them, and create, again, what we call a rare experience.
And it's so easy to get caught up in the cost of it versus what the story will do to further the brand, further the scale, whatever it may be.
Right.
So two things I thought of as you were saying that is, one is Andy Frisella at First Form has always said, anytime he's asked, how have you built this thing? Serving one customer exceptionally at a time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. So you have to constantly remind yourself of that. Because what will happen is once that flywheel starts spinning, and once it's easy to do that in the front because no one's calling you, no one's coming through your door, no one's sending you an email. So when you get one, it's like roll out the red carpet, baby. But once that flywheel starts spinning and all of a sudden you have more emails and you got more phone calls, then human nature is to, oh, the phone's ringing again. Like, of all the businesses that they could be calling, they're calling yours. Yeah. And I mean, First Form is a great example. Whenever I get something, I get a handwritten note with every order. And obviously they're not a mom and pop shop. I mean, that thing is a behemoth, but to still get a handwritten note, I mean, that to me is like, okay, they're doing something right.
No, they are. And it's you guys, so in all the business coaching I'm doing, and it's fascinating because I draw the parallels between you two companies are the ones I use all the time. Yeah. As examples. And have you been down there yet?
I have not. I've heard about it. I've seen images on your Instagram, and so I can't wait.
So what's incredible, and by the way, Sal told me that he wants to get up to Vortex this year.
Yeah, I can't wait.
As well. So what's incredible is you walk into their warehouse, you're going to go, holy shit, this looks identical to mine.
Really?
I'm not kidding.
That's awesome.
I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
You both your warehouses, you could eat off the floor.
Yeah.
Your racks and everything, although different products,
Right.
look identical.
Yeah.
Like the cleanliness, the organization, the exact racks throughout all the warehouse.
Yeah.
It's uncanny.
What I think of them, and I know Seamus, he's the one who's got the direct line to Sal, but I'm anxious to meet him, and if we get the opportunity with Andy, that'd be great. But I think Simon Sinek calls it a worthy rival in the infinite game. And so you can have these, rival, if you will, that's not in your industry. You're not actually competing with them, but you watch and you hear and you see the way they're serving their customers. And it's like a shot in the arm. And you're like, okay, like game on, like they've stepped up the game, how they serve customers. We need to make sure that we're doing the same. So for me, they're definitely at the top of the list. There's a few other ones where you're always paying attention because they do such a good job of, you said, serving one person at a time and doing it after the thing has scaled to this massive size and massive success.
Yeah.
And so I think as business owners or leaders, it's great to have those people that are pushing you. They may not even know they're pushing you.
Yeah, no, I think this is where a lot of business leaders get it wrong, is they think of people in their industry, right?
Yeah.
And they go, this is my competitor in my industry.
Right.
When not realizing all of us are competing against Amazon.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And they're like, well, maybe not directly, which Amazon's in a lot of things.
Right.
But no, what you're competing against is Amazon's expediency, their convenience.
Yeah, they have raised the bar for, the expectation of a customer. Is the expectation of a customer when they call, when they email, when they chat, they want a response right away. In most cases, they want a human being who's happy to talk to them, empowered to help, and is totally focused around their issue. Amazon less so on the personal side, but definitely on the speed of shipping and convenience,
having a plethora of options, all the different things. Like that's what I think where people get it wrong. They only think about, oh, I'm in the business coaching game, so I'm only going to focus on my competitors that are business coaches.
Right.
No, I got to look at how Vortex is actually serving. I got to look at how First Form is building a culture, because it not only helps me in my own business, it helps me in coaching the other businesses. So I don't care if you're in manufacturing, if you're in CPG, whatever you're in, you got to be looking at who, like those worthy rivals that you mentioned, and going, okay, how do we elevate this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for First Form, it was when I first got the handwritten note. I'm like, are we doing handwritten notes in every order? So it's like game on. So it's awesome to do that. And there might be a little bit of time you got to spend connecting the dots, because you said it's a different industry. But if you just spend a little bit of time, typically you can find something that they've done principle based maybe, or even tactic based. And if you just connect the dots to your business, there's a way to maybe kind of incorporate it.
Tying these two topics together, you talked about the story, and the story being told about you is so important, right? So we both just talked about the handwritten notes First Form does.
Yeah.
You talked about the story I told about the binoculars, the story you told about the binoculars. The story that gets told about your guys' warranty has got to be the highest told story ever. And it's one of my favorite things. Every time I visit you guys, it's usually a different tour guide.
Yeah.
And I always ask, what's your favorite warranty story?
Yeah.
And so my favorite one that I've heard from your guys, I'll tell it quick, and maybe you share yours as well, but we'll give everyone the what it actually is. But the story was that there was a guy in a once in a lifetime elk hunt, I believe it was, out west, and he had dropped his spotting scope down a pretty large cliff, not going to be recovered.
Right.
But he's got this once in a lifetime tag, and he calls you guys and says, "Hey, this is what happened." The person on the phone goes, "I know exactly like the opportunity that you're at." So that hunting experience, right? That love of hunting, love of shooting. And he goes, all right, well, so where are you? He goes, well, I don't really know.
Right.
He goes, he's like, can you give me a road? Can you give me a landmark, anything? And so he gets him a road about a mile away that he could see with his binoculars, gets him basically all he could find was an electric telephone pole. And your guy basically said, okay, that's going to be my landmarks, coordinates with either UPS or FedEx, one of the two. And they go, you want us to do what? And he says, well, I need you to drop it at this pole, these coordinates.
Right.
And they're like, okay, we do that. It's out of our hands. This is on your guys' back, which understandably so, right? So the UPS, FedEx, whichever one was, follows that instruction. The guy hikes down and is able to continue his hunt.
Yeah.
But just sharing the story, like how many stories of those are being told about Vortex because you guys weren't worried about the cost, but fulfilling that very important promise.
Well, and like you said, that story scales, right? You're telling it to all your listeners, and we're talking about it now. And I think a couple things, and then I'll kind of backtrack and talk about it maybe big to small. But I think it's really cool because technically the way the warranty works is somebody, if they have an issue, they send it in, and in 5 days or less, we repair it or replace it for free. But in the case of a lifetime hunt, hunt of a lifetime, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
Right? Because I need it now. So our guys don't go by the SOP, even though we don't call it that, but the standard operating procedure.
Yep.
They're like, I got to help this guy, have a successful hunt. And so they're going to bend over backwards to, get somebody out. I mean, we'll even sometimes call a dealer and have them, if they're even remotely in the area, drive it up. And, we've done it in Costa Rica. We've done it out west. So I love hearing those stories. That's awesome. But the VIP warranty stands for very important promise. It is for very important people, but it stands for very important promise. And the promise is that we will repair or replace anything for free, no questions asked. And we don't advertise 5 days or less turnaround time, but internally, that's our goal, that it's 5 day turnaround time, unless you're on that hunt of a lifetime. Yeah. But it's cool how it came from, because again, it was my dad. It was partly his values and partly seeing an opportunity. But so he had the Wild Birds Unlimited. From Wild Birds Unlimited grew out a company that was mail order, and it would eventually be an e-tailer called Eagle Optics. Okay, so they sold all the different brands of optics, and then they eventually developed their own Eagle Optics line of products. But what would happen is he would spend an hour or 2 hours with the customer, because sometimes binoculars can be intimidating for people. And he would sell them a binocular, and they would go on a hunt of a lifetime, or they would go to Costa Rica, and something bad would happen. And they would be calling those brands up initially because they had an issue. And those brands, they wouldn't even pick up the phone. They wouldn't return a call. If they did, sometimes they'd say, sure, we can fix that. It'll be $300. And they'd be like, well, the binocular costs $280. Like, that's not going to work. So they'd eventually make their way into my dad's store. And they weren't mad at my dad, but they were upset with the experience. Well, my dad felt embarrassed. And he was upset himself because he's like, I was the one who spent an hour or two with this customer, and I'm the one who took the $280 or $300. So he would go to bat with the brand because he's got a little bit more pull because he's selling more product. And, maybe 50% of the time, 25% of the time, he could get them to do something for that customer. Well, then ultimately what he started to do is he started to say, if the brand's not going to do anything, here you go, here's a new one. Okay. And then eventually that led to him hiring some people who could actually repair binoculars. And then he would sell these refurbished ones. But what he said at that time, though, is he said, if we ever have our own brand, that's our brand, not another person's that we're selling, that's never going to happen. Like, our names on it, if you will, like we're going to have their back no matter what. And so actually the precursor to the VIP warranty with Vortex was the Platinum Class Protection Warranty for Eagle Optics products in the 90s. And sure enough, he ran it the same way. And a couple key things here. He was convicted that was the right way to do it. And he was like, you know what, if it doesn't work out, then business wasn't really for me, probably. Right. So he was committed long term on this strategy. It wasn't like, oh, we're going to do this and it'll be a slick marketing thing, and I'll look in 2 quarters and we'll really see the ROI on this thing. Right. Because if you do it that way, you'll never stay with the VIP warranty. Yeah. So he was convicted, from a values perspective, but he also saw it as an opportunity because these other brands weren't doing anything close. So it was a huge catalyst for Eagle Optics. And then, of course, when we did Vortex, we just had the same warranty. We just had to come up with a new name. And I thought his very important promise was very appropriate for what that is. But as you said, that has led to so many of these stories because the people that we have on the phones, we hire people who already love helping people. Okay, we do some training, but we don't hire people who don't like helping people and then train them to help people. We hire people who already, we call that an alignment effect. They need to be aligned with us. And then we kind of let them know how we do things, but we say, hey, the most important part is you meet them where they're at. Okay, you make this experience all about them and use your creativity, your ingenuity. We got your back, whatever you need to do. use your good judgment, but you just serve them in the way they need to be served. So they don't have all this stress of this big binder of SOPs that they got to follow. They know that they can just focus on taking care of that customer one at a time, and we will have their back so they can have, the customer and the dealer's back. And that's kind of how it works.
Well, I think I either asked you this directly or at least I heard you answer it, because you got to imagine there's going to be people that are calling screw you over.
100%.
And you had a pretty good answer, if I recall, was like, how I'm just going to ask it. How do you allow people to have that ownership when they know they can tell
right.
that they're probably getting this? Yeah. This is a con job.
So the first thing I think I would say, a couple things, is we're not asking people to suspend their good judgment. Okay. Like, we hire people who have good judgment. Okay. So for instance, if somebody calls and they say, hey, I was on a cruise and my binocular just went over the side, and they're telling some tall tale, and their gut is telling me this isn't legit. And of course we say we cover it. You got to have it or have pieces of it, but we'll allow them to make a judgment call. They may find that person in our system and be like, this person owns $20,000 worth of Vortex stuff. We need to just replace it, even though technically you need to have it. But also, it might look like a tall tale. They may reverse on the number that they're hearing. They may do some sleuthing online, and they may be like, hey, look, we don't replace stuff if you don't have it, but we can get you a discount at a retailer. So if you want to replace it, you can replace it at a lower, less cost. So there's this element of using your good judgment that we don't ask them to suspend. But on the flip side, if you're going to do something like the VIP warranty, my answer is yes, you're going to have somebody that's going to screw you. Accept it.
Yeah.
And accept the fact that in the aggregate, with the millions and millions and millions of customers that we've dealt with over 25, 35, 40 years, is that the goodwill that you're going to bank day after day, week after week, month after month, and year after year is more than going to make up for the person who broke their Strike Fire 1 red dot because the Strike Fire 2 just came out, and you're convinced that they broke it. Well, first of all, we keep a lot of the old products around, so often we can just replace it. But the reality is that, yes, with the millions and millions of customers that we serve in a given year, there's going to be 2 or 3 or whatever. But also, I would say this, if you're focused on the fact, if you go into something thinking this person's going to screw me over, guess what? You're going to see it in every situation. But if you go into it thinking, you know what? We have great customers. This person, like, if you go in believing that they're good, and you go in more with an abundance mindset versus a scarcity mindset, first of all, your day's going to go a lot better. But again, those customers are going to be thrilled with the experience. They're going to be loyal and come back, and they're going to tell all their friends about it. So overall, in the aggregate, you get much more gain than you do if you have this scarcity hoarding mentality.
Yeah. And there it is. And that's how you keep people from getting cynical in a job that you're trying to be giving and create that rare experience.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I want to talk about a little bit how you've created this environment for your employees as well, because it's like everyone that I've ever encountered there loves your culture. Yep. And it's how you've led. And just even to the point of the examples that I've given companies that I'll go visit, like your little libraries.
Yeah.
So Joe is an avid reader like me, and some of his favorite books he puts in these little libraries across the office. Yep. Now, I don't know what your cadence is in switching those out, or if you keep certain ones that are always there or not.
Right.
But you just buy in bulk and allow your people to pick those up at any given time.
Yes. Yeah. And that was the library idea, actually, was, so yes, I've been into books and I give them away a lot and I had them available, but my assistant, Denise, kind of understood that, and she was the one who came forward with the little libraries idea. And that's the cool thing, is that most of the best ideas that have happened at Vortex have come from the people in the trenches, in this case, Denise. So she has this idea for these little libraries. And then we've got Dusty and a few other guys in our facilities team that are master woodworkers. So she said, is it cool if I run with this? I'm like, go for it. She goes to them. They build these little libraries. They're all around. And yeah, I always like to hopefully inspire people to read versus force them to read. So yeah, we put a lot of books in there that have been inspirational to me. So if there's a new one that comes up, then I usually order, have Denise order 50 or 100, and then they start to put them around the libraries, and yeah, people can take them and they can hopefully read them, but they don't have to.
Yeah. That's really cool. I'll give you another first form example. So anytime they hire someone, and even if it's warehouse, which is, I think, their lowest paying job,
Sure.
but they can get a $2 an hour bump by reading 3 books. And there are specific 3.
Yeah.
But then not only reading them, they have to report back to their leader. A lot of times Sal is the one they report back to.
I love, actually, that's an idea. I might steal that one. I like that one. That's a good one.
So is Extreme Ownership is one.
Yep. It's great.
Magic of Thinking Big. And I'm slipping on the third one, but it is a specific 3 that they want them to expand their minds and understand.
I think I'd know R3 for sure. Yeah. Go Giver 1. I think Power Moments would be 2. Maybe Infinite Game would be 3. I love Extreme Ownership, so it'd be hard not to put something like that in there, the QBQ or Extreme Ownership, or something that basically just, the ownership is on me, my responsibility. So it'd be great to have one of those in there. But I love the fact that there's this an incentive, and I love the fact that there's a reporting back. It's not just Scout's honor. Yeah. Because if you've read those books, and obviously I know Sal has, it'd be pretty quick. You can tell if somebody's read the book or just, got a ChatGPT summary on it. Yeah. And it's a win-win, because obviously in Extreme Ownership, you want them taking that ownership and have people on your team that take ownership. But also, like Magic of Thinking Big is helping people that may have come from a background that their parents or families have not ever made any real money. And this is allowing them to actually think bigger and what they can do inside and outside of the company. I don't think I've actually read that one, so I'll put that. That is Andy's favorite book. Okay. Magic of Thinking Big. Yeah. All right. I will. Well, it's on the list. I think it was a Marshall. Maybe Marshall Goldsmith? That's what's coming to mind. I always think of him as what got you here won't get you there. I might be wrong on the author, but that was what was coming to mind. Okay. So I want to talk a little bit about the military contract, because it was many years in the making. For sure. Right? So you signed a 10-year agreement. Was that right? Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. Many years in the making. And what people don't understand about this, or a lot of people don't, is how married the military is to certain contracts, certain dealers. Yep. It's extremely hard for a new company to get in on a military contract. Yeah, it is definitely not easy. Usually that they have these shops that are basically all they specialize in military contracts. Yeah. These large, companies, multi-billion dollars. So for us, Vortex, maybe compared to like a mom and pop or whatever is a really big company, but compared to people that are typically getting those military contracts, we're actually the new kid on the block, smaller player on the block. So we had to really perform in order to get that. So, but these are optics going into harm's way. Mm-hmm. Is there a different, because we go from hunting, which is, a sport, to real life and death scenario. Yeah. So what type of, there's so many just thoughts coming to mind here, questions of what type of responsibility and onus and seriousness did the team have to take in making sure that this was not only a world-class product that you're delivering to hopefully lead to more military contracts, but you got someone's life on the line with this. So, we test, a lot of our products that are not this particular scope, they're seeing, they're in the field in the military. So a lot of there could be SEAL teams or things like that. They can buy stuff off the shelf. And so you've got a lot of high-end products, and we put them through the ringer from a testing perspective. This one obviously does have to go to another level of testing. But I think one of the big things, not only from a durability thing for sure, but one of the big things with this next generation optic was the fact that it had to be able to do next generation technology. So there's for instance, like an active reticle, this ability to be able to kind of point something at something and then be able to get a readout from, what the distance is. It will even get you a point and it said, this is where you need to shoot. So having that level of technology plus the durability, plus there's other features and there's enablers. There's things that need to be able to enable with them, like thermal. We have a range finding component in the rifle scope itself. So there's a lot of this next gen technology, the ability to communicate with other people, that you're going after the bad guys necessarily, and you're topographically you're all over the place and you want to designate a target, but have everybody else know where that designation is. So there's a lot of technologies like that really what they wanted with this piece is have next gen technology so that if we're going against the enemy, they're using a lower grade of technology. So it's that combined with that durability, like you said, that life is on the line. Now, from a benefits perspective, what they're hoping to achieve here with this next gen optic is they're hoping to be more lethal at a greater distance. Okay, you can carry less ammunition that way because you're more lethal at distance. You're safer because you can hit that target without that target being able to hit you. Yeah. You can communicate well, not only with other guys on the ground, but also possibly with people in the air. So it's really that next generation that they're after, in addition to all of the durability, concerns that you'd have with something that's going to be in battle, and it's going to be in severe conditions, severe cold, severe heat, and everywhere in between.
Yeah. We could go down the path of how cool that stuff is and all the tech that you referenced, but really what I want to pull out on this leadership podcast out of this is you have this huge win in getting that military contract.
Yeah.
The team's got to be excited. All right, we got to get our ducks in a row from a technology, durability, like our best players on this job. How do you keep the team going and motivated and making sure that, hey, we're still in growth mode and we're not just going to rest on our laurels because we landed this deal we've been wanting for a long time?
I mean, I think it's always, anytime leading, it starts with leading yourself well. So I don't ascribe to the are you a leader or are you not a leader? You are a leader. You may not be a good one, but you're leading yourself, either good or bad. So you got to always start with yourself. How am I leading? And then how am I leading by example, which those things are kind of like tied together, right? If I'm leading myself well, I'm probably leading by example well. And then I'm a leader over people. So I think everything starts with yourself and is like, am I motivated or am I comfortable? Am I working hard or am I being lazy? So there's that. And then I think the other thing is that, again, I think when you're in business, you're hiring adults, okay? There's certain type of businesses where maybe your business is around reforming, helping people reform themselves, okay? But outside of that, you're hiring adults and like it's not finishing school, okay? So you train people, you empower people, you can lead people, you can grow their leadership, but you're looking for some raw DNA in somebody. And usually that raw DNA is, I'm not one to get comfortable. I'm constantly pushing myself. I do have personal ownership already. I may not have read the books. There may be room for development, but I've got some raw DNA. I mean, you're probably played a lot of sports. And so usually, or if you've ever coached somebody in sports, you'll take the person who's lit on fire, but has no idea where they're supposed to go.
Yeah.
Versus the person who knows everywhere to go, but like you got to pick them up, you got to kick them, just to get them going, right? And so same thing as I think when you hire well, when you hire people who are already aligned with you, then generally speaking, you're going to get a much better output than if you hire somebody who maybe has a high skill set, maybe has a pretty advanced resume, but they don't see the world the way that you see it. They don't have those shared values. So I think starting with yourself, hiring well, and then I think the other thing, so assuming you've done those things well, you need to be have really good communication. You need to over communicate. You also need to understand the pulse of your team. So it's very important that you can push your team hard, and it's also important that you read the room and know when you're about to burn them out.
Yeah,
because good people can be burnt out, and so sometimes you need to say, we could go after those 8 things, and maybe I'm okay going after those 8 things. But in our case at Vortex, I got 450 people. Okay, they just been through COVID. They just been through this. They've just been through that. We did these great things. We got this military contract. Maybe we don't go after those 8 things. Maybe we go after these 2.
Yeah.
So I know Jim Collins talks about it in Great by Choice. He talks about that 20-mile march. And if you're like me, you don't need to read that like I need to go 20 miles today, right? No matter what. What I get out of that book with my personality is I need to have the discipline to stop after 20 miles and just run 20 miles consistently over and over. And usually people fall on one side of the fence. They either like, no, I need to go 20 miles even when I don't feel like it. And that's cool. But then there's other people that they're like, we're going 100 miles, baby, and we're going 100 miles. And it's like, okay, you might be able to do that, but your team maybe isn't. So it's not just the discipline to go always, it's the discipline to know when to stop.
No, it's so good. There is so much to go into there with that. The thing I was thinking about is development then, right? So one of the things I know about you guys is the the care that you put into your employees. That's where I was kind of going with the libraries as well, is like, bringing in, you're in Barneveld, Wisconsin, not a big population, not a lot of restaurants around. So you're not a lot of childcare. So like you built the daycare center, you have food trucks come out, like you're constantly thinking and evolving, but specifically on developing leaders. How do you guys think about continuously developing your people?
Yeah, so this is the way I think about it is, and it's different. So I don't like cookie cutter ways of developing leaders. I think so. What's really important to me is everybody reports to somebody, and a certain leader does not have too many direct reports. So they're not spread so thin that they can't actually pour into somebody. Okay. Mm-hmm. So it's every leader's responsibility to meet that person where they're at and also learn what drives this person. How does this person learn? There's some people that are great leaders and they're great learners. And guess what? They don't like to read. Okay. Okay, cool. As a leader, then like figure that out. Instead of like just ham jamming books down someone's throat, maybe they can do it via Audible. Maybe it's just one-on-one conversations in a very intentional way. I think it's really important that people meet people where they're at and they understand the dynamic of the person and how they're wired, and then co-create something with that person around leadership. I think I have not seen something done really well where you come at a very diverse group of people in an organization that have very different jobs, very different motivations, and you say, this is the leadership program, here you go, ram it down their throat. It works for some people. And I can speak to my background on that. I struggle to read. So everybody thinks I'm the reading guy, and I guess maybe I am now. I had a real time learning how to read as a kid. I really, really struggled. And thank goodness I had my mother and I had a teacher that partnered together. They learned how I was wired.
And the Book It program.
The Book It program helped, right? Those little, the Pizza Hut balls. That's right. At Pizza Hut. They're not, I mean, it depends who's listening to this and what their age is. They probably don't know what that is. But yeah, so I think for me, it's, okay, I want to help develop this person. I want this person to grow. I want this person to find how their best leadership self, which by the way, not everybody wants or is destined to have direct reports. That's another thing I think leaders get wrong is they're like, oh, I'm not developing this person unless eventually they have a team of people. No. Have you ever watched basketball or football? Have you ever seen a guy who's a star player become a coach? How often does that work out well? Usually it doesn't. I think Larry Bird did fairly good as an NBA coach.
That was exactly who was coming.
But Isaiah Thomas didn't. I mean, the best coach are Phil Jackson and Pat Riley that I can think of. They were role players in the NBA. Obviously good enough to get in the NBA, but they were role players. Some people are really good at being a player, and they're leading by example. They're not supposed to have direct reports. They're not interested in it, and they're not wired in it. And some people, of course, are not interested. They're not wired for it. They do want it. So you have to figure out with them and say, okay, you want that. You want to lead other people. Guess what? It's not about you hitting home runs. It's about you helping them hit home runs.
Yeah.
And so that's a part of that leadership development. It's like, I love the phrase that says you got to give up to go up. You got to give up to go up. And so all that development is very nuanced. It's very subjective. And the cool thing though, is that if you lean into that, that other person is going to feel seen, valued, and important because they realize this person isn't just coming at me like I'm a cookie cutter human being. Mm-hmm. They're trying to really get to know me. And usually if somebody feels that, they're much more open to sometimes the constructive criticism that you're going to give them because they know this person took the time to get to know me. So when it comes to leadership development, I'm all about a very co-created, individualized way of doing that.
But you have an expectation that leaders are developing other leaders. It sounds like,
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just individualistic.
Yeah. So for instance, I'm always thinking about, God forbid I get hit by a bus.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And like,
we're not immune to any of that.
Right. What's the plan? And so, I think one of the worst things that could happen, and using another Jim Collins, is to be a genius with 1,000 helpers. Right. Now you need some people that probably just want to be helpers, and they're great helpers, and they'll say, but you need some people who are actually going to be good leaders. Mm-hmm. And so in our case, like, the person running sales, the person running supply chain, the person running marketing, so on and so forth, we go around the company. They better be better at that than I am. I didn't hire well if they're not.
That's right.
Okay. And that's a big misconception. There's a lot of big, tough, burly guys who like to be like, I know more about my business in every department and every job than anybody in my business. And I'm thinking, whoa, look out. Man. You got a lid. You got a cap on how good you can be. And it's really the law of multiplication. If I as a leader get really good leaders who then get really good leaders, the multiplication of that effect and that impact is massive. But if it's all on me and I just got a bunch of worker bees that are waiting for a bell to ring and then they say, oh, yeah, how can I help you? Okay, like there's a cap on that business. So absolutely, it is a responsibility to develop leaders. But I also think there's a lot of wisdom and maturity to understand, especially in our business, 450 people, or let's say you have 1,000, 5,000. When you're training somebody, not everybody is supposed to be the CEO. Not everybody wants to be the CEO. So you got to find out where's their ambition from a leadership standpoint? What capacity do they have for leadership? And that's the way to kind of see them and meet them where they're at.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, I know we're running out of time here. Yeah, which time's flying. So I want to ask the legacy question.
Yeah.
So you guys, you and your brothers chose to move to an employee-owned ESOP company instead of just keeping it in the family for the rest, which is a really humble thing to do. And right. You could probably sit here and argue there's also the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
But that being said, I'm just thinking you're my age.
Yeah.
And we got a long runway still to go, but it's God willing.
Yeah.
But when you think out, you're 65, we're sitting here, right. Maybe you smoke a cigar with me.
Yeah.
What do you want to have accomplished or done, or what do you want Joe's legacy to be at that time?
Yeah, I think, so the other day, this is a couple months ago, I was listening to somebody talk about work-life balance. And I've always hated that term, work-life balance. Because I think it's all just life, right? And when you frame
I say integration or harmony, or better methodologies.
There you go, right. And, but anyways, and I was responding to somebody online or something like that. And so I looked it up. I wanted to look up how many hours are at work on average. And, if you go from 18 to 65, it's 90,000 hours. It's a huge part of your life. And of course, there's a lot of people that are spending more than 40 hours, a week at their job. And the mortality rate's hovering around 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And so
it hasn't changed.
Right. It hasn't changed. So to me, what I'm hoping that my legacy is that I help people reclaim and reframe those 90,000 hours. Instead of being this drudgery that I have to do in order to support my life that starts at 5 p.m., in order to support my life that starts on Friday and ends when I start becoming a Sunday jerk because I'm thinking about Monday, okay? I hope that they can look at those 90,000 hours as an opportunity to serve other people, regardless of what the circumstances are, and actually make that something that's a thriving part of their life, even though it may not be the thing they grew up wanting to do. I grew up, I wanted to be in the NFL. That didn't work out, okay? All right? So, but I can still make my life matter. I can still reclaim and reframe my work hours to be about serving other people. And I think, so I want to get people all about serving other people, not as subservient, as a superpower. By the way, that doesn't mean you get walked over. Okay, let's not confuse kindness with weakness. Okay, you get to have backbone, you can have boundaries, all the things, but it is not a bad thing to serve other people. Yeah. It's the ultimate thing. And I think at the end, when those 90,000 hours are over, when, the mortality rate, you're about to continue that thing at hitting about 100%. I think that the extent that you were able to serve other people in a way that made them feel seen, heard, valued, and important, because they are, I think that's the extent that you had a good life. And you had a life that's going to live on far after you, far after the nest egg that you left. By the way, those are great things. You should support your family. You should protect your family. All those things. Making money is not a bad thing. I do not think it's a bad thing. But I think serving people is the ultimate thing.
Yeah.
And so to me, that's kind of what I hope my legacy is could I have been a catalyst for people to refocus on that, and particularly in the world of business. as opposed to business is bad, making money bad, and my life is good. Okay. Or business work drudgery. My life at 5 p.m. can be fun, can be exciting. Like you said, let's integrate it. Let's make it the best, but let's also position it around serving other people.
Yeah, I'm 100% on board. I think that our job is to determine what our gifts are that God gave us, see how far they go, how deep they go, and give them back into the world in the service of others.
Yes.
Like that's our role here on this planet.
Yeah.
So a stat for you that'll hopefully motivate your mission here.
Let's hear it.
So I go through this in EOS with the clients, and I give them this stat because we do a delegate and elevate exercise for leaders.
Yep.
And so the 4 quadrants are work that you love to do and are great at doing. The upper right then is like and good.
Yep.
Bottom left, you don't like it, but you're actually kind of good at it.
Yep.
And then the bottom right is not good, don't like.
Right.
95% of people spend their majority of their time in the bottom left.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They're good at it, but they don't like it.
Yeah, it doesn't fill their bucket.
Right. And so that's why we see so many miserable people walking the face of the earth, because if they don't like it, they're not going to use their gift to serve the world.
Right.
Because they're not actually using their gift. What we got to do is get people in seats and positions that actually is in their unique skill set. They love to do the work, and that's when their cup is overfilling to serve the world.
Yeah. And I think a couple things on that. I think if people come at it with a place of abundance versus a scarcity mindset, that opens up the ability for them to see, I could make that happen. Because I also think a lot of people think, well, there's no way to get there, and because they're so closed off and they're so like, well, I need to make money, I need to put food on the table, and I'm not able to do this thing over here. But I also think it's another opportunity for their leaders above them to, again, meet them where they're at and help them discover that uniqueness, help them discover which quadrant that they're playing in and what it would look like to play more in that lower lower right quadrant.
Yeah, that's 100% accurate, because as a leader, that if the right person in the right seat costs you nothing, and in fact makes you a ton of money.
Yes.
So therefore, we want to get as many right people in the right seats as possible doing the work that they love to do and they're great at doing. So that is incumbent upon a leader to figure that out. Because if I got someone in the wrong seat that's miserable at what they're doing, but they're the right fit for the company, right culture fit, like I got to find the right seat for them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
It's going to benefit all of us.
Right. And I would say most of the time you can get them in your organization in the right seat that gets them, it's filling their bucket, so to speak. But sometimes it's not at your place. Mm-hmm. Like sometimes it's not. And I don't think the thing to do is just get them out as quick as possible unless they're causing a lot of problems. But I think the thing to do is to say, hey, like, you're really wired for this. Like, you're actually doing a good job here, but I see you're dying inside. I think you might be wired for this. And by the way, you might disagree or you might agree. I'm not saying you got to go. I'm just saying, like, let's get to a plan. If that's the case and you agree with that, then let's help you find a way there. Yeah. Because you're right. It does not help anybody to have somebody doing something that they're good at that they hate, because they are just going to die inside, and nobody needs that.
That's right. Well, I always ask this last question. It could be on anything you spoke of.
Yeah.
Or anything that just comes to heart. What's an unpopular belief that Joe holds to be true that you think most others disagree with?
Oh my gosh, I'm going to be kicking myself. Whatever I answer, I'm going to be kicking myself as the drive home that I should have said that. But I think I'll just say one thing that we didn't talk about that I do think to some degree is counterintuitive. I think far too many people are focused on quick fixes. And I think people need to become experts in compound interest. And compound interest as a graph looks like this. This is like maybe your impact. This is time. It looks like this. So it looks like it's not doing much for a while. And then it starts to go up, and then you hit an inflection point and it goes like this.
Yeah.
And so most people don't have the patience and consistency to get to the inflection point. And what they're doing is they're going online and they're going to ChatGPT or they're typing in, how do I do this? And there's an element of quicker. Okay. And sometimes the quickest way to make a major impact is just to stick with something consistently over and over. And that is not fun to hear. But I will challenge people, if they look at their life or they look at anybody who has achieved a lot, there's an element of consistency over time. Every now and again, you will meet a prodigy at something, but I would argue that's the exception that proves the rule. The fact that they're a prodigy and they're an outlier proves the rule that that's not how it normally happens. If you want to get fit and you want to get in shape, I get it. You want to be in shape in 30 days by the time you're going to the beach. But you know what? I bet you if you meet your fittest friends, it took them years to get that fit, right? And same thing, if you want to learn the piano, if you want to learn, a musical instrument, if you want to get good at something, podcasting, you're now on 250 episodes. I bet you're better at 250 than you were on the first episode.
100%.
Right? So I would say this, if you want to be an expert at something, be an expert in consistency and study the law of compounding and compound interest. Because if you can master that, and most cannot, but if you can, and you can direct that compound interest in that lower right quadrant, ideally, in an area where you're good at, but also one that fills your bucket, you will achieve far more than you would have ever imagined. But you can't give up. You just got to keep going.
That's right. So good. All right. So where can people follow you on this new social media journey you're on?
Yeah. So obviously, if you're interested in optics, you got vortexoptics.com. But if you're interested in this care stuff, this creator air experience and how we do that, vortexcare.com. And then we're on, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube. YouTube is
Joe Hamilton Live on Instagram.
So yeah, Joe Hamilton Live on Instagram and YouTube, and then Creator Air Experience with Joe Hamilton on Spotify or wherever you find your podcasts. Yeah. So that's where you can find me, and I'd be honored and grateful if they do.
Well, drop them a note and tell them what your biggest takeaway was today.
Biggest takeaway?
No, not yours. The audience. I'm telling the audience. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want the audience to hit you up on biggest takeaway because you gave so much, and I so appreciate you being here. Joe's one of the most humble people on the planet because you are one of the best CEOs on the planet.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And I have the privilege of being around a lot of business owners, and you are. And it's your care for people. It's your desire to get better, not only yourself, but everyone around you.
Yeah.
Right. That's the key. And the humility from, we came from similar backgrounds of taking over our father's businesses,
right, yeah.
and being able to take that to the next level, but also being able to operate a business with your brothers and keep that family cohesion and stuff. Like I always tell people, like family businesses are dysfunctional at some level. It could be a little bit, could be a lot of bit, but there's just feelings there. So there's dysfunction. Right. Yeah. And you guys do such a great job. And I've known Seamus even longer than I've known you, and one of the best humans out there. So just appreciate you as a person, as a leader, and what you've done for Madison, the community, Wisconsin, and can't wait to see the next 20 years, brother.
Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate that. That's one heck of a way to be described. So I'm humbled by that, but I appreciate it and appreciate having me today.
No, you got it. So Spartans, you know what to do. Share this episode far and wide. Remember that good and great are the enemies of possible. Lead like a Spartan today.
This is Sparta!